There is no lower human being on this earth than Chimaev. You became best friend with a murderer, and you took G-Wagons. Like, you're not a man, dude. You shouldn't be allowed in this country, but I'll fight you. I'll fight you, don't worry.
What happened? Before you guys used to train together and everything, what happened?
So Chimaev would come to the gym, I know there's a clip, like, oh, me, like, being sarcastic, you're the best, you're the best. Like, he would just go and ragdoll our low-level pros. Chimaev's just a bully, man, and I mean, even like the crypto scam, if you have an open, honest opinion on Chimaev, you're looking at a man that lacks all other things.
Bro, you think your dad beat the shit out of you?
Against Khamzat Chimaev. You know why? And I don't know if this counts as MMA math. 1 takedown, 2 takedowns, 3 takedowns, 4 takedowns, 5 takedowns. I think that might have been the 6 takedowns, 7 takedowns, 8 takedowns. Some of those might have been the same takedown. But he has at least 7 takedowns on our boy Sean Strickland, okay? You want to know what Khamzat did to Dricus Du Plessis?
Sean Strickland and Khamzat Chimaev were once seen as training partners who respected each other. They shared gyms, trained around the same people, and for a while, fans thought there was mutual admiration between them. But now, that relationship has completely exploded into one of the most personal and toxic rivalries the UFC has seen in years. The tension between these two fighters is no longer just about rankings, titles, or competition. It has become deeply personal, emotional, and borderline uncontrollable. Every interview, every press conference, every social media post adds more fuel to a rivalry that already feels ready to erupt into chaos at any moment. Sean Strickland has never been known for filtering his words. The former middleweight champion has built his reputation around saying exactly what's on his mind regardless of how controversial, offensive, or reckless it sounds. But his recent comments toward Khamzat Chimaev pushed things to another level entirely. Strickland openly called Chimaev a terrible human being, questioned his character, insulted his friendships, and even attacked his identity in ways that instantly ignited outrage across the MMA world.
He's got too much of a pressure-heavy style, and he's also a hyper-elite athlete on top of it. Fluffy doesn't have the athleticism. He's got the dog, he's got the pressure, he's got the grit. But Khamzat actually has some slick stand-up skills. He's got knockout power in his hands. He's got nasty wrestling, next-level wrestling chops. I think we're going to see Sean Strickland on his back for a lot of this fight. And I think Khamzat is probably going to wear him down with some ground and pound. As much as we hope for Sean Strickland to go out and make it competitive.
This wasn't ordinary trash talk anymore. This wasn't the classic, I'm going to knock you out, type of promotion fans are used to hearing. Strickland was deliberately targeting deeply personal issues to provoke an emotional reaction. And honestly, it worked. The moment those comments started circulating online, fans immediately realized this rivalry had become far bigger than just a fight. Suddenly, people weren't only debating who would win inside the octagon. They were debating whether these two men genuinely hated each other enough to fight before the cage door even closed. That's how intense the atmosphere surrounding this matchup has become. At the center of the rivalry is one undeniable truth. Sean Strickland genuinely believes Khamzat Chimaev is beatable. While much of the MMA community treats Chimaev like an unstoppable monster, Strickland refuses to buy into the hype completely. And that confidence stems partly from their past training sessions together. According to Strickland, the version of Chimaev people see publicly isn't the full story. He claims that during training, he pushed Chimaev harder than anyone realizes and even forced him to quit during sparring sessions. That accusation completely changed the tone of this feud. In fight culture, accusing another fighter of quitting during training is one of the most disrespectful.
Booing, okay?
But how does the fight go? You know, the press conferences and stuff are another thing. How will the fight go? It looks like a lot of people are just going with Khamzat automatically, but we cannot count on Strickland. I'm definitely not counting him on again. I made a breakdown about this a few years ago, about Strickland's chances against Khamzat and how he is probably the most difficult fight in the division for him. I'm going back to that same opinion that I once had because the version that just fought Fluffy Hernandez might be more difficult than people expect. He has good takedown defense, he has good get-ups, very good striking. His jab could be a problem for Khamzat, but the thing is Khamzat's wrestling just too strong? Just having good takedown defense is not enough. This is probably the best wrestler in the entire UFC.
Respectful things you can possibly say. Fighters can handle insults about skills. They can handle criticism about performances. But questioning a fighter's heart, questioning their warrior spirit, that becomes deeply personal instantly. Strickland essentially accused Chimaev of lacking the mentality that defines elite fighters. And for someone like Chimaev, whose entire image revolves around domination and fearlessness, those accusations strike directly at the core of his identity. But despite Strickland's confidence, many analysts still believe Chimaev presents a nightmare matchup for him stylistically. And when you break down the technical side of the fight, it's easy to understand why. Khamzat Chimaev possesses some of the most dangerous wrestling in all of mixed martial arts. His ability to pressure opponents, explode into takedowns, and maintain suffocating top control has overwhelmed elite fighters repeatedly. Once Chimaev grabs hold of opponents, very few fighters have successfully escaped his control for extended periods of time. That creates massive concerns for Strickland. Sean is known for his pressure boxing style, his relentless jab, and his ability to mentally break opponents over time. Standing up, Strickland can absolutely create problems for almost...
As long as the fight's standing, I think Strickland is going to have some advantages there. Keep the jab on him, line up the 1-2s, and Khamzat's probably going to throw some front kicks, some jabs himself, but the wrestling is definitely the path to victory for Khamzat, and he might win that way. We'll see. I'm hoping for a very good fight here, because the build-up is going to be really big. Hopefully the fight delivers, and for sure what's going to be brought up is that legendary training session where Strickland didn't have much of a chance against Khamzat in training. That's what they made it seem like, and then Strickland comes out after and says, no, I made this guy quit, and I have people who could back me up on that. I made this guy quit in the training room, and Khamzat's making it seem like he was nothing in training, so we get to find out.
Anyone in the division. His cardio, durability, and non-stop forward pressure make him extremely difficult to fight over 5 rounds. But wrestling changes everything. Against elite grapplers, even small defensive mistakes can completely alter a fight instantly. Many analysts point to Dricus du Plessis as an important comparison in this matchup. Du Plessis managed to take Strickland down multiple times during their fight, and while Sean often worked his way back up, the takedowns still exposed vulnerabilities in his defensive grappling. Then fans look at what Chimaev did to elite grapplers and strong middleweights, and suddenly the stylistic questions become very serious. If Chimaev can consistently force Strickland to fight off his back foot or spend long periods defending takedowns, Sean's entire striking rhythm could collapse. That's why so many people favor Chimaev despite Strickland's toughness and confidence. Still, there's another side to this conversation that many fans overlook. Sean Strickland is not an easy fighter to dominate for long periods of time. People focus so heavily on Chimaev's wrestling that they sometimes forget how difficult Strickland actually is to control. Sean has excellent scrambling ability, underrated takedown defense, and an almost obsessive determination.
Who knows? Maybe Whitaker was going to be the one to gas out. We don't know, but again, that's the point. We know for a fact Khamzat has struggled when he's trying to grapple fuck you rounds 2, 3, and 4. And you know what I mean? We've seen that before, right? And on the feet, man, I'm telling you, if Strickland can survive that early onslaught, if he can survive that early onslaught, he starts walking Khamzat down, putting him on the back foot, just popping the jab, walking him down. He doesn't have the reactive takedowns to duck right underneath that jab to get to the shot. We just haven't seen that before.
Determination to stand back up immediately whenever opponents take him down. Even when elite fighters manage to ground him, Sean rarely stays stuck there comfortably. That's where this matchup becomes fascinating. Because while Chimaev's wrestling may be the best weapon in the fight, his cardio has shown weaknesses in longer fights. We've seen moments where Chimaev slows down significantly after explosive early rounds. His pressure-heavy style requires enormous energy. If opponents survive the early storm, the dynamics of the fight can change dramatically later on. That possibility creates a legitimate path to victory for Strickland. If Sean can survive the early takedown attempts, avoid taking excessive damage on the ground, and drag Chimaev into deeper waters, the fight could begin shifting in his favor. Strickland thrives in ugly, exhausting fights where opponents slowly fade under constant pressure. His jab becomes more effective as fights continue. His pace becomes suffocating. His confidence grows stronger as opponents tire. And Chimaev has never faced someone exactly like Sean Strickland before. That uncertainty is part of what makes this rivalry so compelling.
All of a sudden, he has to rely on his striking game, and his striking game's bad. It's really, really bad. But again, that's kind of the thing here, is that if he can just take down Strickland at the start of every single round and control him, then none of this matters.
But we're finally getting some big matchups. Khamzat Chimaev versus Sean Strickland was announced for UFC 328. That's a fight that I want to see. That's a fight that everybody wants to see. Chimaev versus Strickland, that's one of the best fights the UFC has made in a long time. That is going to be one of the biggest fights in UFC history.
On paper, Chimaev's wrestling advantage feels massive. But mentally, emotionally, and stylistically, Strickland brings chaos into every fight he enters. He refuses to be intimidated. He refuses to break mentally. And that mentality alone gives him a dangerous edge against almost anyone. Sean is known for his pressure boxing style, his relentless jab, and his ability to mentally break opponents over time. Standing up, Strickland can absolutely create problems for almost anyone in the division. His cardio, durability, and non-stop forward pressure make him extremely difficult to fight over 5 rounds. But wrestling changes everything. Against elite grapplers, even small defensive mistakes can completely alter a fight instantly. Many analysts point to Dricus Du Plessis as an important comparison in this matchup. Du Plessis managed to take Strickland down multiple times during their fight, and while Sean often worked his way back up, the takedowns still exposed vulnerabilities in his defensive grappling. Then fans look at what Chimaev did to elite grapplers and strong middleweights, and suddenly the stylistic questions become very serious. If Chimaev can consistently force Strickland to fight off his back foot or spend long periods defending takedowns, Sean's entire striking rhythm could collapse.
Of course, the story is about Strickland tapping 17 times in sparring. It's not sparring, guys. Listen, Hernandez is someone who capitalizes off people when they're starting to fatigue. That's when you start to see his wrestling, his very basic wrestling, start to excel. Now, Khamzat takes people down not when they fatigue, but when they're fresh. When they're fresh at the most peak they'll ever be via endurance, everything. At the very start of the round, Khamzat goes there and asserts his dominance. And I swear, I don't think he's going to pipe up at all. I actually think we're going to see a more mellow side of him. Like all this terrorist talk, like you're a terrorist, or you're all this racist talk, like, oh my God, your religion is this.
That's why so many people favor Chimaev despite Strickland's toughness and confidence. Easy fighter to dominate for long periods of time. People focus so heavily on Chimaev's wrestling that they sometimes forget how difficult Strickland actually is to control. Sean has excellent scrambling ability, underrated takedown defense, and an almost obsessive determination to stand back up immediately whenever opponents take him down. Even when elite fighters manage to ground him, Sean rarely stays stuck there comfortably. Because while Chimaev's wrestling may be the best weapon in the fight, his cardio has shown weaknesses in longer fights. We've seen moments where Chimaev slows down significantly after explosive early rounds. His pressure-heavy style requires enormous energy. If opponents survive the early storm, the dynamics of the fight can change dramatically later on. If Sean can survive the early takedown attempts, avoid taking excessive damage on the ground, and drag Chimaev into deeper waters, the fight could begin shifting in his favor. Strickland thrives in ugly, exhausting fights where opponents slowly fade under constant pressure. His jab becomes more effective as fights continue. His pace becomes suffocating. His confidence grows stronger as opponents tire. That uncertainty is part of what makes this rivalry so compelling.
When he sees him, it's going to be all like, yeah, listen, I just want to fight. I bet in the press conference, that's the most we're probably going to get from him. I can see him being very respectful every time he runs into Khamzat fight week, but when the press conference comes, I can see him turning up all of a sudden. Like, people don't understand something. Sean Strickland's not hard to actually take down. He's hard to hold down when he's going against mediocre people. Now, Usman was the only one in recent memory who's able to hold him down and spank him. The fact that Strickland's not necessarily hard to take down, going against Khamzat, who will take you down very easily. But Khamzat's actually good at holding people down and using people's leverage against them. Like, if you guys rewatch the Robert Whittaker fight, Khamzat mowed through him pretty easily.
On paper, Chimaev's wrestling advantage feels massive. But mentally, emotionally, and stylistically, Strickland brings chaos into every fight he enters. He refuses to be intimidated. He refuses to break mentally. And that mentality alone gives him a dangerous edge against almost anyone. Strickland's comments crossed multiple lines, especially when he began bringing nationality, religion, and politics into the rivalry. Those remarks created enormous controversy online. Some fans defended it as psychological warfare and fight promotion. Others viewed it as completely unacceptable and reckless. Regardless of where people stand personally, one thing is undeniable: the tension now feels real. And that creates genuine concern about what could happen during fight week. Several analysts and fighters have already predicted the possibility of physical altercations before the actual fight even happens. Chimaev is known for his emotional intensity and explosive personality. If Strickland continues pushing those same buttons publicly, many people believe security.
And Strickland does have solid wrestling fundamentals. You always see him in the wrestling outfit. He's always had good grappling in his career. He's taken down guys like Amavov. When people take down Strickland, he gets right back up. Like he does. He gets right back up to his feet. Or they don't take him down in the first place. But he always immediately works to a better position. And he has that ability in him. So it'll be interesting to see. This would be an amazing win for Chimaev if he can get it. But if he can't finish Strickland in the first 2 rounds,
he could struggle to contain the situation. The UFC secretly loves these types of rivalries because they generate enormous attention. Controversy creates headlines. Headlines create views. Views create massive pay-per-view sales. And this feud has all the ingredients necessary to become one of the biggest promotional events of the year. Khamzat Chimaev represents raw aggression, relentless pressure, and almost frightening confidence. He fights like someone trying to destroy opponents physically and mentally at the same time. Every performance feels intense. Every takedown feels violent. Every interview feels unpredictable. Then you have Sean Strickland, one of the strangest and most brutally honest personalities in combat sports. Sean thrives on chaos. He enjoys provoking people emotionally. He constantly...
So this is very compelling. I'm leaning towards Chimaev right now, but I could be swayed. But it's a great main event. The press conference is going to be crazy. Like, here's a fucking thing, you guys. We couldn't have this fucking terrorist at the White House. I'm going to have to do it for you fucking guys. He's going to be going crazy, standing up. USA, baby! He's going to be screaming at the top of his lungs. He's won the fan base back over after his Anthony Hernandez win, especially by TKO as well. Chimaev's going to be getting rage baited. If you thought him slamming the desk...
blurs the line between reality and performance. One moment he sounds completely serious. The next moment he's joking sarcastically. Opponents never fully know whether he's mentally unstable, strategically manipulative, or some dangerous combination of both. From a technical standpoint, the fight itself could become one of the most fascinating stylistic battles in the middleweight division. If the fight stays standing consistently, Strickland's jab, volume striking, and pressure could frustrate Chimaev badly over time. Sean's ability to maintain a relentless pace for 5 rounds is extremely dangerous against explosive wrestlers who rely heavily on early momentum. But if Chimaev successfully imposes his wrestling early, the entire fight could become a nightmare for Sean. Chimaev's ground pressure is exhausting physically and mentally. He forces opponents to carry his weight constantly while defending strikes, submissions, and positional advances. Very few fighters remain calm under that kind of pressure. Some believe Chimaev overwhelms Strickland early with takedowns and brutal ground and pound. Others believe Sean survives the early chaos and slowly breaks Chimaev mentally and physically during the later rounds.
Of the press conference after Gilbert Burns was mocking the way he was speaking, was him losing it and being a little bit flustered in the build-up. I actually am going to make a prediction that at the press conference, we're going to see Chimaev storm across the cage or storm across the stage and try and throw blows at Sean Strickland. Like, that's the way I see this happening. This build-up, if Strickland's going to say the shit he's been saying, we're gonna see a backstage fight.
Both outcomes feel possible, which only increases excitement surrounding the matchup. But beyond the technical breakdowns, this fight now represents something much bigger emotionally. Pride, ego, respect, reputation. Both fighters genuinely seem determined to humiliate the other publicly. That emotional intensity changes fights. It creates unpredictable moments. It forces fighters into dangerous decisions. If this fight actually happens as expected, the atmosphere during fight week could become absolutely insane. Every face-off will feel dangerous. Every interview clip will go viral instantly. Every press conference moment will dominate MMA headlines worldwide. Fans won't just be tuning in to watch a fight. They'll be tuning in to watch two men who genuinely appear to dislike each other try to settle years of tension violently inside the octagon. Both outcomes feel possible, which only increases excitement surrounding the matchup. But beyond the technical breakdowns, this fight now represents something much bigger emotionally. Pride, ego, respect, reputation. Both fighters genuinely seem determined to humiliate the other publicly.